lot of people or a lot of my clients who come to me don't even want to be seen with me.
But it's not a failing. That's what people don't seem to get. Speak the right words. Think the right thoughts, because the good book says, as a man thinketh, so is he.
If you look at the African language, it is...
Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live, and I'm Cyril Stober. The political journey of Nigeria from colonial administration to self-rule has consistently reflected on diverse ideologies and ideas for attaining the state of nationhood and achieving even development across the length and breadth of an independent nation that was under prolonged British occupation and control. Now, more than 6 decades after, the unfolding developments have been mild, tough, and sometimes unpredictable in the determination of who gets what, when, and how, with diverse interests working towards economic and political stability as well as social transformation at all levels of government. Now, Nigeria may have had its sad days, which broke bonds, interfered with genuine processes to nationhood, but the gains of post-colonial leadership, from military to civil rule, are thought to surpass the dark ages. Now, as a developing nation, 61 years of independence certainly challenges likely to manifest, but how the nation rises to these setbacks distinguishes it from its contemporaries and projects its image to the rest of the world. Tonight, Tuesday Live will focus on 61 years of independence and developmental strides as well as challenges. But first, let's get to see this report by Timothy Yusuf.
Nigeria was 61 years old on the 1st of October 2021. Still basking in the euphoria of the celebration, those who know say it has been a journey of multi-ethnic nationalities, different religious groups and dynamic political system under one united country, Nigeria.
Nigeria has made so many significant impacts, all over the world within the Committee of Nations, and back home here there are significant achievements despite the challenges on the journey to nationhood.
Findings show that the country is blessed with abundance of human and natural resources, with oil and agriculture driving the economy mostly. Mineral resources also abound across the country, thereby making Nigeria a giant among the Committee of Nations.
In spite of the challenges that we have in the country, there are so many efforts that is being done, not only by the federal government but at the sub-nationals, to address some of these issues. Yes, we are expecting too much within a short time, and also within a period that we have forgotten where we are coming from.
Going down memory lane politically, analysts recall that the merger of the southern and northern protectorates in 1914 by the British colonial government gave birth to Nigeria, but that it took patriotic and passionate struggle from the people and their leaders for the country to gain independence on the 1st of October 1960, with Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa emerging as the first Prime Minister of Nigeria. Nigeria, however, marked total independence from Britain when it became a republic on the 1st of October 1963, with Nnamdi Azikiwe as its first president. Political unrest, however, led to a series of military coups in 1966. The country was therefore ruled by the military, with democratic rule not in place until October 1st, 1979. Another military incursion in 1983 abruptly terminated the civilian administration in the country. Democracy was again restored in 1999. Of course, it has been an uninterrupted democratic government in place since then.
So what has been happening in our country, particularly in that period of time, it's not something you can gloss over.
This is probably the time we should be concerned about rapprochement, about peace building.
We have regional interests playing out. We have ethnic interests playing out.
Describing the nation's journey so far, analysts say over the past 61 years, bad governance paved the way for economic hardship, which experts attributed to present insecurity ranging from banditry, kidnapping, insurgency, and ethno-religious tension in the country.
The inability of the political class to engage the traditional institution is the reason why we still have so much crisis in the land.
But I believe that it is the weight of development in multi-sectoral dimension that has created that weight, and is appearing that we've made gains and we've lost some of the gains. But I believe that under the leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari, as we are going to pursue, overtake, and recover all as a country.
Amidst the challenges, the good news, however, is that Nigeria still remained an indivisible entity after 61 years.
We should also rise above hate, rise above ethnocentrism, rise above regionalism, and all, to become one people, one nation, one people, one destiny.
In all, a cross-section of citizens believe that with patriotism, unity, and strength in diversity, Nigeria can overcome her challenges. Timothy Yusuf.
Alright, that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's start off by introducing our guests. We'd like to welcome Professor Ken Ife, a development economist. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Alright. We're also joined by Dr. Kayode Ajulo. He is a legal practitioner. Thanks for being here.
No, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. And we have joining us from our Kaduna Network Center is Professor Kabir Matu, a political scientist. Professor Kabir Matu, good to see you. Is Professor All right. Let's also welcome to this program a former Minister of Education and a former Commissioner for Agriculture in Ogun State, as well as a former coordinator Women in Nigeria. Let's welcome Senator Yabo Adnishilo, who joins us via Zoom from Ibadan. It's good to see you again. Right. Okay, so we always acquaint you with the process of this program. At the appropriate time, you can get to be part of the discussion in the studio. The numbers will be on your screen, but that's when it comes up. And we like to remind you that when it's that time and you get through to the studio, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set so we can avoid the hurlback or the echo. And when that time comes, when you have to ask a question or make a comment, just go straight to the point and don't bother about greetings. So welcome to NTA Tuesday Live. Tonight it's all about 61 years of Nigerian independence, the strides and the challenges. Let's start with Professor Ken Ife. 61 years. How would you describe Nigeria these past years?
Well, I can say that Nigeria amazes me with the resilience of this country. That we have a litany of the good, the bad, and the ugly. But resilience is a big word that describes how we have managed to walk our way for 61 years. But it also makes me more confident about our economic and political future, that we could do this, neither or that storm.
Okay. What are your comments, Dr. Kayode Ajulo? 61 years.
Well, I agree with the professor. One thing that's so clear is about the tenacity of Nigeria to ensure that things are done, no matter how, whatever the situation we find ourselves. And once again is the unity itself. You know that this fabric that is being overstretched most of the time. For the past 61 years, I remember sometimes we go through the papers, through the archive, you notice at one point or another, this issue of disunity, unity always seemed to be the recurrence decimal. But one thing that is so clear is that despite all this, despite the hues and cry, Nigeria still remains one. And I think that is one thing that you cannot take away from the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And again, that one means that one needs to salute the leaders, the security agencies, and even Nigerians, because no matter what it is, through the dialogues, through the stripes, through the fighting, through all that, we still remain one. And I think that is one thing you can't take away.
Okay. Let's go back to our Kaduna Network Center. And it's the same question we'll put to Professor Kabiru Matu. This country called Nigeria has had 61 years of independence. How would you describe it?
Well, I'm not surprised. I think the 61 years have been not as traumatizing as a lot of us will like to look at it. I see the last 61 years as basically continuation and culmination of a drive to nationhood, which of course characterizes the very heterogeneous nature of the Nigerian society. So the issue that people talk about unity, disunity, and all sorts of conflagration in relation to the relative stability politically that we are experiencing in the country today, in my view, is what should be expected of such a very big giant. A nation now of over 200 million people with very many ethnic nationalities, and above all with a very peculiar character of an elite class that in the last 61 years apparently, and especially in contemporary times, has failed to understand the mission of which it naturally ought to discover in order to reduce the stresses and tensions that Nigeria as a nation has faced, especially in the last 20 years since we started this democratic dispensation. But in summary, I do not expect that anything short of what we are getting today would have been the answer in view of the various, like I said, heterogeneity that the nation is made of, blessed with also a character of, some form of elitism. That in my view is more self-centered, more interested in perhaps not the pursuit of even class interest, but personal aggrandizement and selfish interest, etc., etc., against the teeming population of this country that, of course, as Plato will say, rely on the philosopher, the king. That's the elite class that should have ordinarily led the people out of the wood. Instead, it's been a tension and confusion arising from what Okodibanoli will refer to as cutthroat competition of the various elites from the various segments of the nation, for the control of the scarce resources of Nigeria. I think we have done very well in the last 61 years. What we see, in my view, represents, what Bala Usman will call the national question. And the national question will never have any national answer. As you address one problem, another one rears its ugly head. So the last 61 years...
Well, that's good, because we'll go into those questions that you say will perhaps not get a national answer. But it's good to hear your opening comments about what you think Nigeria is after 61 years of independence. Well, let's go over to Senator Iyabo Anishulo, who's joining us via Zoom from Ibadan. Well, Senator, we would like to go down memory lane with you. You were there at independence, and you participated in the very first march past on the attainment of independence in 1960. As you reflect on that and what Nigeria has become today, what would you say?
Well, my comment as to border on the situation we are now, because in 1960 when we had independence, it was very good, very nice. We were anticipating very good government, and the younger ones were encouraged that we will do well in life, be educated, we'll have good work to do, jobs to do, and the men will be real men and the women too will be real women to build the nation together. And that was the feelings we had, and it was very good. I mean, from 1960 to the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, when things started to fall apart economically. We after the oil boom, and we had good spending on different development projects, but the issue when corruption crept into the system, it became very, very bad. It became bad. Then later on, as we move on, became very, very, very uninteresting for those who are coming behind us, because now we have a lot of unemployment. The unemployment rate is very high, and the systems have not been built to actually give succor to the people in the country. So although we need to really thank God for all that we have been able to do in this country, because we have not, apart from the war we had in 1966, 66, 67, 68. The effect of the war has really touched relationship in the system, and so I feel that we have seen the good, we have seen the good, we have seen the bad, and the ugly that is rearing its face in the country is the issue of insecurity that is ravaging the country right now.
Okay.
And mothers, we are really reflecting and feeling that what will the future be for the upcoming Nigerians.
All right.
So I will say we had good times when we were young, when we were growing up, yes. But when we became adults, we had these terrible things happening around us, and the basic issue is the corruption that has been transported in.
Well, thank you so much, taking us down memory lane, and I can imagine how you must have felt being part of that march past some 61 years ago. Yes, there have been challenges through the years, and now Nigeria faces numerous other issues. So let's look at them. And sometimes it gets very difficult to determine where you start. Is it the economy? Is it on the political front? Or let's try the economy, for instance, and see how has it been 61 years after independence. Are we looking at a country with an economy that Nigerian citizens can be proud of?
Very challenging indeed. Well, if you look, our population then at independence was around 45 million people. And now we've grown 5 times more, about 218 million people. But certain things have not grown in that proportion. For example, infrastructure. Our infrastructure has hardly doubled. In fact, our stock of infrastructure is 35% of our GDP. South Africa is 80% of their GDP. And many countries are more than 100% of their GDP. So that even gives you an idea. Because the reason I had to start with infrastructure is that infrastructure is what you require to drive the diversification agenda. There's no area that you don't have particular type of infrastructure. In petroleum and gas, you have infrastructure that they require. In agriculture, you have special infrastructure which is called quality infrastructure for it to be able to get out of the country. And every telecommunication, you need broadband, you need all these so every sector of the economy requires particular type of infrastructure. You need power. Power is infrastructure that drives all industries. You have dams, over 300 dams. How many of them are being used to generate power? How many of them are being used by the 12 river basins to produce food and irrigation or water supply, metropolitan water supply, or even aquaculture? So there are gaps, significant gaps in that infrastructure. And that's, you had the president, you had the CBN governor saying we need $100 billion every year on infrastructure, at least for the next 30 years. So that gives you an idea of the huge gap, and the rest of the economy is struggling. If you take the most obvious one, which is agriculture, what we inherited from the colonies was a structure that wanted us to continue to produce commodity and send it to them to process so that we can consume. So that and then they responded, our pioneers responded by building settlements, farm settlements, to do cocoa and all that. They responded. But they weren't focused at that moment to say, why don't we progressively add value to this so that we can get a fair share of this in the global. It wasn't their priority. They did build industries. Our built industries, you had Ikeja industries in Ikeja, and the western region had a head start many decades before the eastern region came in. Eastern region was the last to come in, and when the eastern region came, they had industrial estates in Transamadi. You have in Aba, you have markets, a major market, regional market in Onitsha. In Kaduna, you have industrial bases there. But the focus of these industries were not to process our raw agricultural commodity. They were to focus on all other industries. That's why you have a lot of you have iron and steel, you have motor manufacture of different cars, and then you have tire. Dutora was doing tires and all of that. So they were focusing, and then you have iron and steel in Enugu. So all of them were focusing on but they were not focusing on our natural economy, which is not a bad idea though. But then after the Civil War, the National Development Plan, which was the second one, was focused on 3R, reconstruction, rehabilitation, and reconciliation. Everybody came together after that troubled time to work on that national agenda, and we generated 10.2% growth rate, the highest ever in our country. So it tells you one thing, that when we come together under a purposeful development plan that engages people, will produce outstanding results.
Okay.
But it hasn't, that hasn't been followed through.
All right. Dr. Ajulo, yes, we can say at the start, all the leaders were focused on was to get independence, get the country up and running. But as he just said, not add value to those resources that we're taking out. But the argument would be 61 years later, what's wrong? If you did that for the first 5 years, perhaps, we should have learned to do it better.
Well, that is where the problem starts from, and I want to say that's where the rain started beating us. Because if you know, it seems that most of the superpower we have, then that's the leader. The essence is to take power from the colonial masters. I want to believe, and it seems that they have seem to be more specialized in that. But when it comes to the real governance, and that's why, you know, within the first 5 months and 5 years, we have the issue of coup. From coup, you can know what happened. Then we have war and all that. But one of the main issue where we had is this issue of corruption, and we need not to deceive ourselves. I do say this, it's quite unfortunate. Corruption can germinate, can take place virtually everywhere. Even sometimes by the time you look at the deep interrogative corruption itself, you find out that it is more of an innate thing in everyone. It is more like human right. But what distinguishes corruption from one point to another is the essence of how it's being regulated. It's the essence of where you have the institution to ensure that people, your conduct are regulated. Unfortunately, we seem not to have that, and that is one of the basic issue. In a Senate line, not that when you put off the light, you see some people misbehave, but in a situation that the light is there, and anytime you misbehave, there will be, the law is there, the law enforcement agencies is there for you to be disciplined. Unfortunately, that seems to be what we are bereft of today, and that is why we seem to have all this issue. Yes, everybody seems to have an idea of how a country should be. The Prof mentioned the issue of infrastructure. Prof mentioned that as at the time when we seem to come together, Nigerians seem to be running well. But forgetting that as at that time, there is some semblance of check and balances. We are just out of the war. You can see what happened, and I remember that time. That's when you see. I remember, though I may be young, but some of us will read the papers. That's when now the armed robbers, people are dealt with. That's why we have all this. You can see then things working. But unfortunately, in a situation, no matter how you are, even if you're a saint, you notice that whatever your action will not be regulated. Your action will not be checked. There is no check and balances. There is always that space for misbehavior, and I think that is where we are. As long as our institution cannot fit it right, we still continue to have this issue. And that is where we are.
Professor Kabir Mato, let's come to you. 61 years, but most of it, some would argue that most of those 61 years have been bedeviled by governance issues. Would you agree with that?
Well, that's true, and that's typical of every human society, especially dependent peripheral capitalist system like the one we inherited from British colonial masters. I don't like to overlabel the theoretical postulation that our leaders at the point of independence were more interested in winning political power rather than the development of their respective regions and the nation at large. I think that's a theory that has been so over-debated in our universities and so on and so forth. I think if we want to look at the nature and structure of the Nigerian problem, we must situate it within the presumed of the very nature of colonial education, which unfortunately was not tilted, was not changed after independence. What was the purpose? What was the focus? Merely to produce literate Nigerians that could serve in one one way as middlemen, and that could do simple arithmetic and calculations and interpreters to the colonial administrators. So the essence of education in building the mind and souls of citizens was not actually entrenched as part of the colonial legacy of our education. And so it was not surprising that up till this moment, our educational system has not radically changed from that. We were somewhere, lost midstream, attempting to live or left the colonial legacy and unable to actually identify and pin down the very character and characteristics of the educational system that is indigenous to our communities and that will lead to the transformation and development of our society. That's one fundamental aspect of it. And of course, the issue of governance, like I said, is a continuous process from colonial struggle for independence up to the First Republic and then the military incursion into the body politics of this country and our attempt at democratization. Have not all, if you put together, I will not say we are not successful in totality, but a lot of problems, have arisen, arising from political instability and, so many other governance, issues that have faced us as a nation. Let me give you an example. And the tragedy of the entire situation is when we place the nature of governance in this country today against the backdrop of where we are coming from soon after colonial period and after independence, you will realize that there is a serious denudation on the quality, not of leadership per se, but even, the ethics and what governance should be all about. For instance, you take respect for political authority, the courage of political parties in the First Republic. You find that it's similar with what was obtained in the Second Republic. And what we have today basically, is a caricature of what political party system ordinarily should look like. The discipline, the focus. If you take our political parties today and you talk about the issue of manifestos and cardinal principles and objectives of these political parties, you will find that you put it in comparison with what was obtained even between 1979 and 1983, you will find that what we have today is, it's nothing to write home about. So I think in as much as the governance issues have so far predominated our life. And of course, you see, the centrality of governance and in economics, as well as the centrality of economics in governance, are two dialectical issues that you cannot separate one from the other. Perhaps it is the failure of governance, as far as successive administrations in this country are concerned, that have resulted in these economic doldrums that we find ourselves in today in Nigeria. And I think if we want to, be honest and take a look at this situation with a view, perhaps to providing solutions that will take us out of the woods, we must not, try to put in isolation, the issue of governance on one hand, and then the economic crisis that we are facing on the other hand. I share the thought also that corruption is a fundamental issue. It is the backbone, of perhaps all the misdemeanors that we see happening in our community. Professor Sam Aluko used to, try to define or categorize corruption into two major distinctions: benevolent corruption and corruption that is not benevolent. But in our own case, it is so tragic that we do not even, have the sympathy of undertaking benevolent corruption, but we will rather go for the destructive corruption, which, in my view, is responsible. Have the sympathy of course, what's happening today. Corruption, but we will rather go for the destructive corruption, which, in my view, is responsible.
Two of you have now spoken about corruption, been at the center of most of Nigeria's troubles. Dr. Kayode Ajula, and you have also underlined that as one of the biggest issues. But you've also pointed to education not being tailored for the kind of development Nigeria would have required at independence. And that takes me to Senator Anishulo, who was at the time Minister of Education. Do you agree that Nigeria has not really tailored its education towards developing the kind of society that is required, and has just been repeating the same steps that the colonialists, established here in order to just have literate Nigerians and nothing more than that.
Not really, because the system of education that we inherited from the colonial masters, the system was good, and we're building on the system until politics came into it. What has actually ruined the educational system here is the politics of education. And we went beyond just giving education to our kings and our people. We went into, demolishing the system. The system, the institutions here has not been built to support itself for the future. And as the population increases, the facilities were expanded, and instead of building those facilities, we actually it's ruined completely because of the fact that we have so many needing to be educated, needing to be trained, given the required skills, especially in technology. Because it's only this paperwork you read and then you become a teacher, you become a lecturer, and so on. Had not really taken us out to be able to be a industrialized nation. And again, the facilities, as those of the participants have actually mentioned, we don't have power. You don't have power to drive the economy. You don't have power to drive the industries. You don't have power to do anything for yourself. So really, the system of education that the colonial masters left, if we had built it and we actually naturalize it, bring it back home to suit our own situations and conditions, you had standard 6 students or graduates going back to their school to teach, and they taught well. Today, you have children, graduates that cannot speak a complete sentence correctly. Even if it's the mother tongue, in fact, it is the corruption of the mother tongue that our children speak to this day. This is the system. The institutions has not been developed and built, and the only institutions that are built that could lead to emancipation. But what we have, we talk about the rule of law. In our days, when you offend in the school, you are disciplined. You be put under some pressure not to do the wrong thing again. No, it's not there. There is so much laissez-faire in the system. People. It's funny that even parents go to help their children to recruit people to do examinations for them. The children don't repeat the classes anymore, just mass promotion and so on. It is the politics that was introduced into education and to different areas that could have helped the people.
Okay.
And that's why we have failed.
All right.
We have failed and we are still failing.
Okay.
But for the private...
Like you say, the politics came in and interfered with everything. We attempted to ask. Dr. Ajula raised that issue earlier on of corruption, and so did the politics interfere with the process of rule of law? And
well, I want to.
Or was in fact the legal system can we say that the colonialists bequeathed a responsive legal system to the new independent Nigerian state then?
Yes. Let me start with this. Your first question, that whether it is the politics that destroy the rule of law. I don't want to believe that it's the politics. It is the embedded corruption in it. Because when we talk of politics, we talk of interest. And there's a way your interest can be ventilated. There's a way your interest can be protected and be pursued if you use the set rules that is agreed between parties to do that. It is as if I'm buying things, we agree on the terms, and anytime I try as much as possible to change that rules of our engagement, it is already being tweeted, it's already turned into corruption, and exactly this is what is happening. So this is not the issue of politics alone, it is the issue of individual, I won't call it inordinate ambition, because ambition can be pursued within the set rule. Now to your question on the rule of law. Rule of law, we all know, it is more of a set of rules that is being used to run, to superintend a certain society, in which you have the set of government, and mind you, this rule of law are those things that is being agreed by the parties. For example, between those who rules and the government, those who are being ruled. And the essence of it is this: it is acceptable standard all over, anywhere, that you find that when we have that, things will be smoothly. You know who gets what, you know within which rules of engagement you are playing. For example, I'm playing football. I know that once I touch the ball, it will be penalty or be foul and it will be recorded against me. But in a situation, once we have that rules and it is being turned because I want to score at all means, I pick the ball, I run with the ball, I throw it to the net, and nobody is saying anything, then something is wrong. And that's why I raised the issue of corruption. And for example, Nigeria, we started on a good note. Our colonial master, I believe, of course, we all travel, we all go to UK, you know what is happening. They bequeathed a very good system or not. And what happened? Within the first 5 years, some set of people choose to eliminate some people, take law into their hand. That is beginning of corruption. I don't want to call it cool. I believe that because some people believe to take that, and that is where the problem started till today. And when you ask whether the rule of law being bequeathed to us, whether it is, the only way to answer that question is this: the same set of rules is being used in some country, United States of America and UK, and most of it, you'll find out that it's okay. Now, how manage we've not been able to to get it right in our own climate. It is because of the same things, because we believe we need to do it without any consequence. Until we realize that for any of our action, there's always a consequence, either good or bad. Unfortunately, our consequence is what we are complaining, what we are discussing, and what we are interrogating. It is once you choose to deviate from acceptable norms, acceptable standards, acceptable agreement, things go wrong. Before, as at the time we are taking we are having the independence, the idea is that there will be some region. What happened today? How manage? Can we say that the groups that, because if you remember, I remember there was a time I was doing any research on it. Over nothing less than 12 different constitutional conferences. Our leaders going to a United States, having meeting for all the minority. I remember there was a time that the Queen sent a senior official to Nigeria to address minority rights and how they be taken care of. Everything had been taken, well discussed, well ventilated. But what we have, immediately we are to start it on our own. The whole thing was turned upside down, and that is why.
All right, we have a number of reports that will be playing back in the course of this discussion, and yes, just before Professor Kedife comes in to respond to some of the issues that Dr. Ajulo has raised, let's get to see the very first report in the series we have during this conversation, and this one is from Lagos. It's put together by Abolade Salami.
From a historic perspective, the interplay between ethnic rivalry and challenges of national security, which have in recent times become very compelling with rampant cases of terrorist attacks, murder, mayhem, and all sorts of vices in some parts of the country, does not define the true Nigerian people. The principle of unity in diversity, in which lies our strength as a people, is very paramount. Debilitating issues relating to culture and religious differences, including political affiliations, should not hinder the relative peace and stability which Nigeria and Nigerians enjoy as the most populous black nation in the world.
When infrastructure is provided, when Medicare is provided, nobody asks you whether you are Yoruba or Niger Delta or all along, but particularly for sustaining peace and unity.
However, over the years, Nigerians have been living together, working together, fight as one people, and have achieved so much in spite of our differences since the attainment of our independence in 1960. The ideology, together we stand, divided we fall, is one aspect that the founding fathers maximized to take the nation to where she is today. In the light of this, patriotic Nigerians have been charged to be active players in providing solutions to the recurring challenges of sectionalism, nepotism, religious and traditional beliefs, as well as economic growth, rather than destroy what has been built for many years.
Let's first and foremost recognize one fact, and that is that Nigerians by nature are peaceful people. I'm not going to sit in this chair looking at you and advocate the disintegration of that unity. It will be a disservice to Nigeria as a nation state and to the Nigerian people.
In fact, what I'm trying to say is that ethnicity and nepotism should be eradicated.
More than ever before, observers say, harnessing the many potential in human and natural resources from the various segments for national development is what Nigerians should be bothered about. This, they believe, will in turn place the country above our equals to compete with other developing nations of the world.
All right. Just before that report, Tukayode Ajulo was trying to piece together what could have happened. And Professor Kenife, you were going to cut it at that point. But yes, but just before you do that, there's a belief that governance issues, the failure of governance, is partly responsible for an economy that sometimes can be described as almost in a shambles.
Correct. The three speakers are correct, but they are on different sides of the coin. The professors talked about the failure of governance and its impact on the economic structures and the economic institutions. The former minister says we have weak institutions. Now, these weak institutions arose from the Constitution, because the tensions around the Constitution is the impact that it has on the political arrangements and the political structures. And then, of course, the institutions are not being enabled, and that's where you see the weaknesses in institutions. But where Prof was going on governance is actually trying to say political determinism of the economy, because the political economy factors are what are breeding the corruption we were talking about. That's what is breeding the inequality. That's what is breeding the lack of incompetence in the system, in the whole strata. All of those are being bred by political economy interest. That's the interest of private interest that supersede national interest. And that comes to governance, and that's how it affects the economy. So all the economic structures are all failing because they are not on right footing. They are infested by the political economy factors, and one of them is the corruption we are talking about, and all the weaknesses that we see. They are all affecting them. And I think that brings it all together, what we are saying. And the sooner we rise above this. And there have been occasions in the journey where the country come together and raise a voice against, you've seen like MSARS, where they said, spontaneous reaction. You've seen various things that come at some points where people rise against particular symptom in the economy. If you take, for example, What caused all the unrest in the North Africa was one unemployed person decided to pour petrol on himself and put himself on fire in Tunisia, and that fire raged across the whole of North Africa. So if education begins to fail, and we are finding that 9% of the graduates coming out of education are not finding jobs, then we have to interrogate the education system that is producing 93% of jobless people. So in the same way, if the judiciary begin to fail, then we have to go to the root of it and then see, this is why it is failing. You have aptly analyzed that structure. So we have to take back our economy. We have to take back our politics. We have to take back, because what was bequeathed by the colonies, as you said, wasn't exactly what has transmuted. Hasn't been exactly what it is. It's just the nature of those unseen hands, those political economic factors that have been reshaping all the institutional structure, weakening the institutions. And you have strong people, but you don't have strong institutions.
Okay. All right, Professor Kabiru Matu, I know you say that some aspects of this discussion have been overflogged in institutions and public discourse, but I'd still like you to comment on this. You do hear people say that the very structure of Nigeria as one country was faulty right from the start, that it was not put together to succeed. It was put together just for some people to be able to reap the economic benefits, and that's why every time you take 2 steps forward, you probably take 1 backwards or something like that. Do you agree with that analogy?
Agree with that, Cyril. I think again that's an integral part of the very huge academic exercise that professors and academicians usually get engaged with. The reality of the situation is that every federal system that you have across the globe is peculiar, was formed in one way or the other, not necessarily bearing the same foundation or conditions. For instance, the American federalism, the United States federalism, was formed not in the same way as the Indians are federating, or Canada, or Nigeria, or Ethiopia, or any other country for that matter. So for anybody to assume that he has to be available or she has to be present when the decision to federate was taken, otherwise it's null and void, in my view, is hypothetical and a mere expression of the ignorance of that particular individual or group of people on what constitutes a federal system of government. The Nigerian arrangement, let it be said by anybody that it was merely an amalgamation that took place by the colonial masters in 1914. The constitutional conferences and other meetings that my colleagues in the studio there have been talking about were some of, the steps and, the processes that were followed, even by the colonial administration, in order to ensure that a federal system did emerge in this country. And the debate that is raging in Nigeria today, and not just today, for a very long time, if you look at its very genesis and foundation, you will find that it's always coming to bear as a matter of, politicking. Politicking in the sense that if you take the history of trade to secession in this country, you will find that, it didn't just start with the Civil War in 1967. In fact, it did happen in the 1950s, where, when the eastern and the western parts of Nigeria said they wanted self-government and the northern region said they were not prepared. One of the conditions that the northern leaders presented at that time was that if the British colonial administration insisted on ensuring that there has to be, self-government for all the regions, then the northern region might actually pull out of, the Nigerian Federation. The Southwest also did threaten, to pull out of the Nigerian Federation. So it's not a new phenomena that we are seeing today. The difference between what happened then and what is happening today is largely anchored on trivial political, factors of power acquisition in, the heated competition for the control of political power so that we allocate resources, every major group within the Nigerian alliance begins to issue one threat or the other. Now let me give you an example. From 1999, when the civil administration started in this country, up to 2007, when President Obasanjo left, the debate as to the character and characteristics of the Nigerian Federation was different from when Umar Yar'Adua took over in 2007 and until he left, and then Goodluck Jonathan also, continued up till 2015. The national discourse as far as the content and character of Nigerian federal system was different from what we are seeing today. So it's a usual thing that the elites will always come out with their contraptions in the pursuit, aggressive pursuit for that matter for political power, to begin to injure the sensibilities of the average or the generality of the population of this country. So I do not believe with the theory or those who are postulating the fact that the Nigerian creation was an accidental creation. It was a deliberate creation, even if it was spearheaded by the British, but the local Nigerian leaders of the various segments of the country at that material point in time were party to whatever discussion that took place. And unless if we are saying, like I did see, that unless if I am part of the discussion, or you are part of the discussion, or she's part of the discussion, we are not going to respect it, that's it. And you don't expect every federal structure. And the military government that we have run in this country from 1966 up till the coming of the civilian administration in 1999 was responsible for the over-centralization. In the First Republic, we had a better federal structure. The regional governments had their constitutions aside from the federal constitution. They had certain relative autonomies. Businessmen, politicians did not want to leave Ibadan, Enugu or Kaduna and go to Lagos simply because they wanted recognition. The over-centralization of the political structure arising from the age-long military rule has contributed tremendously. And of course, even the mutilation of the Nigerian federal units, the states.
Professor Kabir Matu, we'll ask you to pause a while because we're getting to other aspects that we're going to raise. But let's get to see this other report that's coming from Kaduna, and this one is by Achari Maxwell. And once we've taken this report, we'll also come back and look at other matters that have been raised. But surely it's not all a tale of woe, because Nigeria has indeed made progress in so many areas. But let's see this report from Kaduna. Achari Maxwell.
Nigeria is the most populous nation in Africa, in addition to multiplicity of tribes and religious beliefs. From pre-independence, Nigeria marked by struggles for self-actualization. Barriers have been collapsed through exchange of trade, commerce and social engagements to strengthen cooperation and development. After independence, there were more reasons for a country full of opportunities and diversity to forge ahead as one indivisible nation in peace and progress. More than 6 decades ago, and still reflecting, it is work in progress according to stakeholders, believing that the country should continue to leverage on the strength of differences to keep building for a greater country in the journey ahead.
I want to see a Nigeria where there is no Yoruba man, no Igbo man, there is only one man in Nigeria, he is a Nigerian.
Please forget about tribal sentiments and think of I'm a Nigerian, don't say I'm a Yoruba or Hausa anything. We have passed that stage.
Leadership is central to a country's aspirations. Like Nigeria, hence observers strongly recommend entrenching justice, equity, fair play and sense of belonging to all segments of society.
Ancestrally, we are all from one family. That is the family of Adam and Eve. Therefore, we should do all that we can to ensure that our societies are devoid of violence.
If you are a father, if you are a mother, if you are anybody, if you are a leader, wherever you find yourself, do the needful.
There is no place like this country. Whatever you are complaining about,
when you look over your shoulder to another country, you see that worse things are happening.
There are also binding commitments in the beautiful words of the national anthem.
The next 61 years, I want Nigeria to be like heaven, where everybody will live in peace. You can sleep well and say, oh God. When you wake up, you say, God, I thank you.
The desire for national cohesion is unending as leaders and the led, as well as different communities, continue to embrace peace, dialogue, and understanding for survival of the country.
All right, at this point we'll take a break. When we return, we'll continue this discussion. 61 years of Nigerian independence, the challenges and this development strides that have been taken. Stay with us.
Nigerian youths are about the greatest assets the country has at the moment. It is therefore not surprising that the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari is strategically responding to the yearnings of the youth through multiple projects and programs. Youth entrepreneurship support years by Bank of Industry, the Youth Investment Fund by the CBN, and several other conditional cash transfer programs. Recruitment of 774,000 social workers, majority of whom are youths, and so many other projects that are beneficial to youths directly or indirectly. If the administration can do all this, definitely with a degree of patience and time, it can achieve more. Nigerian youths must come together to say no to terrorism, no to vandalism, and no to all disruptive tendencies. Hashtag Youth for Greater Nigeria. Pacifying the youths, unifying the nation.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
All right, expected the discussion continue in the studio here, even as we took that break. The issues such that no one can afford to just ignore them. And so we start up this segment. Hopefully this is the part of it that the phone lines will be open and you can get to be part of the discussion in the studio. And remember what I said at the start of this program. And if you do get through, for those who are calling in tonight, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set and go straight to the point. Keep it short and simple, and don't bother about the greetings. It's okay. We just want to get as many people as possible to air their views. So let's look at other aspects of it. Yes, we've had so many challenges, and Professor Kabir Mato has spoken about the military coming into the political sphere, and quite a number of Nigerians would blame so many woes on that. But then there are others who would say, even when you had what was known as an undemocratic setting, the nation still made some progress. And some of the infrastructure you see today were actually put in by those undemocratic forces that seized power. How do you explain that?
Well, first, the issue of undemocratic force, I don't want to believe is as true as it's being peddled. And I say this from the point that, it depends on the way and from the side of who's making that assertion. As it is today, we have a constitution, irrespective of how faulty we may believe it is. And it is through that process of that constitution, we have those we have in government today. So by that, as a lawyer, I think it is so obvious that what we're having is democratic system of government. How good or how it is that what we all need, of course, individual aspiration always differs. And with that, some laudable program infrastructure, as to say, we can still see that. Like, for example, the issue of railway, it is something that is phenomenal, no matter whatever you can call it, because some years back I don't think I will come from UK to take the train, going to Kaduna, going to Lagos. Sometimes some of us use that. This is one of the things we should know. And like I said, irrespective of whatever it is, I mentioned it in my open speech, that one thing, whatsoever you may say against Nigeria, one thing that stands that we should be proud of is that till today, Nigeria is united.
All right. Well, Prof, democracy in itself, that's progress, isn't it? Some of us would still remember those early morning martial music on radio, and that's not happening anymore. So
that's true.
Right.
That's a big plus. Mm-hmm. But I have to tell you, if you go outside Nigeria and talk to other countries, there's something they admire about Nigeria, that the ordinary Nigerian, the average Nigerian, is very homely. They're welcoming people. They want to live together. They work together. They market together. They do things together. They are very resilient. When you talk about resilience, it is the resilience of the ordinary person on the street. I remember when Obasanjo visited in the first year of his presidency, 1999, he came to London. And then he said that when he came into office, every region was screaming they want to go. He now had to go down and visit them one by one. Each time he went round, none of them ever said they want to go. They said they want to stay. But they were saying the condition is that they are being marginalized. Even in Southwest, where he comes from, they told him that they are marginalized. He said, marginalized when I'm president. He said, yeah, you're president, but we didn't vote for you. That is how they see marginalized. But the fact of the matter is that when you take the man on the street who wants to live in peace, but when they start throwing all those governance issues and all these asymmetries, and then they put fire, and then we'll start splitting. We'll start getting the man wants to live. We all want to live together in peace and work together and shop and live anywhere you want. Another man was a mayor of Enugu. Ezekiel won the election in the West. I mean, what is all this all about? The average man wants to live in peace.
All right. The lines are open. It would seem we have Stanley. Right, from Lagos, calling in from Lagos. Stanley, hello. If you're there, go right ahead.
Hello. Hello. Yes. I'm calling from Lagos. Hello, I can hear you. So my contribution to the matter of the day, the challenges that Nigeria is having, which is our political system in this country. We are not helping the poor masses. Because when elections come now, you see our people send money to the poor masses and confuse them without telling them the fact, what is going on, how Nigeria will become an independent country, and what Nigeria is facing. What we do is to our own personal selfish interest. I could remember those days in my school days. I was taught about
all right. Okay, I think we lost that call from Stanley. But anyway, we had him clearly from the start of it, and he again is putting the blame on the political system. I think right. So let's go over to Ibadan and there. Yes, we'll try to get Senator Anishilo back online. Looks like there are some issues with the connection there, but we'll check in on her again as we go on. But then, Dr. Ajulo, yes, we've made some progress, and one of the biggest challenges today has to do with insecurity. Well, and there are people who would say it has never been this bad. Yes, there are challenges, but not so bad as almost every citizen is scared of stepping out of their homes.
Well, when it comes to issue of security, one, I don't think one need to give any excuse for what happened, because it is primarily the role of government to secure security and welfare of the citizenry happen to be the primary roles of government, and which is enshrined in our constitution.
Okay, let me just ask you to hold on a while, see if we can get Olabode, who's calling in from Lagos, quickly on the line. Olabode, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, my contribution is that our elite must put the national interest forward.
Right, that's it. Well, straight to the point. The elites must put the country's interest first. Right. Okay. Go ahead.
So, like I said, it's enshrined in the constitution that when it comes to security and welfare of the citizenry, it is sole responsibility of the government. Anyway, that one will now foreclose that individually Nigerian citizenry needs to do something about the security. But one thing again we need to know is this: the essence of statehood itself is to have a monopoly on the use of violence. And I believe with that, and as long as government continue to hold that, then this issue of, because recently, and that has been my worry, these non-state actors seem to be gaining upper hand, and that is why I believe the government need to take a decisive action, particularly on that. Because if in a situation where some group of people can come together and to come to try to overhaul the security apparatus, then you know something is going on. And having said that, and I think we still need to go back to the basic thing I've been raising, though I won't call it corruption again. Address the rule of law. It is not until when you obey the law, so constitutional provisions as it is has to be followed. For example, when we talk of issue of the principle of fair character, it must be followed to the total, because the essence of most of this security has to do with sentiment. People get sentimental about some issues, and in a situation where there is room to allow such, and particularly where fit columnists can use it to treat and tickle the brains and the feeling of the people, then we will continue to have this. And that is why most of the thing that is happening in some state is unfortunate that we should not be. Though with some other things happening in South Africa, in some areas, of course, we are having our own part, like what happened in Libya, we're having the feedback. Those are the part of the thing we
all right, back to the phone lines now. Emmanuel from Delta is calling in. Hello, Emmanuel. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I want to contribute to the issue of security. You know, it's a tragedy that a big country like Nigeria, the eyes of Africa, that it is very scary for a city and face armed robbers and kidnappers all over everywhere. So the government have clearly failed because they've not strengthened our police sector, which has not been done for some time now.
All right. Thank you, Emmanuel. Let's go over to Professor Kabir Matu in Kaduna. Well, Prof, people have spoken about the insecurity. I mean, Kaduna, where you are, is in the eye of the storm in these matters. And so many Nigerians feel it's one of the biggest challenges the country has faced in all of its 61 years of independence. Let's hear your views on this.
Experiencing a very precarious situation where ungoverned spaces, non-state actors, are waxing stronger. But I want to think and also believe that with the concerted efforts that the security apparatuses of the Nigerian state are deploying, very soon, by the grace of God, this matter will be a matter of history. But fundamentally, I think what has fueled this level of insecurity more than anything else, I think, is the seeming collaboration on the part of the feeble and unsuspecting population, who, in partnership with the criminals in the various hideouts, are perpetrating these heinous crimes against humanity. It has become so despicable to the fact that it's difficult for one to even detect or understand who is a criminal and who is not. Not the man, brandishing guns and then stopping by the, on the highways or in the middle of the bush, but the collaborating forces that are living within the societies, in my view, are apparently, more culpable and more dangerous than the criminals that are in the bushes. But like I said, I'm aware that a lot of effort is being put in place, and that's why in Kaduna today and in several other parts of the northwestern region where this crisis is, at its peak, you find that even telecommunication service has been temporarily suspended. It's amazing, and I want to believe that the Nigerian, we have said this time and again that it's impossible for the state to provide adequate security cover for the over 200 million citizens that we have in this country. Security is everybody's concern. As long as we are not ready to play our own, little role, no matter how it is, then it becomes very difficult for the security agencies themselves to come to terms and be able, to address this problem very squarely, so that it can be, brought to an end. I want to also think again that it's our responsibility as citizens, to take, that's why out of frustration I believe a lot of these leaders were misquoted, saying you need to defend yourself. I mean, it's about you also being a partner, in the war against crime. You being a partner to the, security agencies to be able to disclose the information and provide raw data that will form the basis of intelligence that will lead, to the addressing of these criminalities, rather than simply sitting back in your home and expecting some government somewhere or some, security personnel somewhere will be there to protect you, at any point in time. It's not possible. So collectively, I think security should be our own, general concerns, and we must be able to come out in our own ways and contribute as well as partner with the security agencies in order to be able to address this problem. Yes, it is, Kaduna is part of it, but I'm sure we are, seeing to the end of it, and by the grace of God, it will be a matter of listening. But importantly, there is a need also on the part of governments at various levels to look at the issue of social policies. Social policies are very critical. If you are to address insurrections and all, forms of criminalities, such as the ones that we are seeing occurring in virtually all parts of the country, not just in the northwest, in the northeast, north central, southwest, and even southeastern part of Nigeria.
We'll ask you to hold on still, and we're still in Kaduna because we have a caller from Kaduna, Joshua, who's on the line. Joshua, if you're there, just go right ahead. No. That's a dropped call right now. So, yes, we'll okay. Have we been able to re-establish links with Senator Anishilo in Ibadan? Yes, we have. So we'll go over to Ibadan, and Senator Anishilo, yes, with the insecurity all over the place, Nigerians been called on to be part of the solution by collaborating with government and other agencies to bring it down to the barest minimum. But there is a key aspect of it all, and some people have said it's the social policies that have given rise to agitations and criminality and all kinds of things. So, and people look at it and say, over the years, so many of our values have been eroded. How can we get back on track?
It has to start with the homes, because the institutions, as I've said earlier, are weak. They are weak. The kind of children we're bringing up now, they are children that are not actually taught to respect the rule. They are not taught to respect the rules, and therefore, from the homes, we should parents should start thinking back how they were raised, especially those of us in the 70s and above. We should look at how we were raised, and if we look very deeply, we found out that those values that were inculcated into us at that time were no more there. Children, even when we went to secondary schools, you have the work you do in the morning before you go to school, and when you come back from school, you go for siesta. After that, you move for preparation for the second day. These are the institutions right from the home is weak. It's very weak. And then when they get out there again, those institutions have not been built to support them. They have not been built to support them. Checks and balances and are not there. And because of that, there is so much lawlessness. And when people get out of school, in those days, you get menial work to do. These days, our children, they don't want to do such. They want to start from the top. And it's not possible. In most cases, when you start from the top and you fall from the top, it's a disaster. But what we should do is to look at the institutions, the social institutions, the health institutions, the educational institutions. We should look deeply to see how we can manage and build the broken walls. The walls are broken, and some of the walls are scattered. They need real architectural definitions that could actually bring those things together. And we must trust ourselves. We should do less politics when it comes to education, when it comes to our health system, when it comes to security. We should do less politicking. Politics is the science of socializing, is the science of community living. We should learn to live with ourselves as we used to in the past, when we were our neighbors' keepers, our brothers' keepers. When neighbors in your surroundings take care of your children, they look at what they do outside and they report back, and they also to strive evil associations. Now things have not gone well as it should be. So we should learn to trust ourselves more. Though it's a bit difficult, but we have to, if we trust God and we pray to God that we don't really stay physically, we should be able to trust ourselves a little and devolve some things to ourselves to do. We shouldn't concentrate on we, us. That is what has ruined the system. So I believe that.
We'll return to you in the meantime. But talking about trusts, Dr. Ajulo, can the Nigerian people trust the judiciary and trust that the system that we have is one that will provide that bedrock for rule of law, and such things as we've talked about here. Surely in 61 years, the judicial system has gone through so many changes.
Okay, let me quickly declare interest here before I answer your question. That I'm a practitioner. I'm a minister in the Temple of Justice, and you just mentioned where one practice. So I'm afraid it may sound, maybe one seem to be a bit patronizing, but one thing that is so clear is this. Today we have three arms of government: judiciary, the executive, and the legislature. If there must be anyone that must be trusted, and of course evidence abounds when it comes to that, it is the judiciary. And I say this particularly, you need to see the way they check, they discipline themselves in every way. Unfortunately, and I need to say this again, that most of the hues and cries of those accusations against the judiciary, mostly when it comes to judicial issues, that is political issues, that of course is two ways. Those who are the losers will continue to complain, while the winner will say the democracy is working. If tomorrow you lose, you have to castigate the judiciary. But I need to say that judiciary, most of what they do, most of the time, you need to see most of those commercial disputes that you see how it is being settled. You need to read our law reports. You know that our judiciary, they are still up to their game, and they need to be trusted. I need to say that, and I want you to do that. Check very well. Anytime there's any accusation against judiciary, it will basically be when it comes to political issues. That's why some of us do ask, maybe politics should be insulated. There must be some other political.
Okay, so even as you recognize that it's mostly in political issues, but someone would say, well, is it not a cause for concern that most decisions which should be taken by the people's vote come from the judiciary? It's a misnomer, isn't that?
No, it is not misnomer. That is why we talk of, you asked me some question about rule of law. It is what we agreed. It is what is in the constitution. It is what is the law. That when it comes, whenever there is dispute, where it can be resolved, it's with the judiciary. It's with our court. And again, whatsoever it may be, the balance before is that whatever may be, let the Lord take its course, even if heaven must fall. And the essence why heaven has not been falling is because we have strong institutions to hold the heaven from falling. But unfortunately, somebody recently told me that even let the heaven fall, maybe if they can see God behind on top of it. But as it is, we need to continue to trust our judiciary, and that's why we say they are the last hope of common man. Not only common man now, even the real elite. They patronize the judiciary than even the common man now.
Wankwo is calling in from Enugu. Hello, Wankwo. Go ahead.
Good evening. Happy Independence to all of you there.
Yes, go right ahead.
Yeah. My contribution is Nigeria has gone very far. And I want to thank God for that, for uniting us together. But I want to let the whole country know that what is stabilizing Nigeria today is political will, political of non-inclusion. If you can check far back, Nnamdi Azikiwe was born in Ziguinchor. Before his birth, you could know that his parents had stayed in Ziguinchor in Niger State for almost 15 or 20 years before his birth. That is Nigeria together. People are in Southwest. If you go to where the Shaki, you will see the Igbo man there. If you go where the Sokoto, Ilela border, you will see Igbo man there. If you go to Badagry, you will see Igbo man there. Thriving in all economy, all endeavors of the economy. Why are we not including ourselves in the politics of this nation? We are seeing banditry, kidnapping, Boko Haram. Those are coordinated people from different all walks of life. They are not only people from the north. Yes, because if you say people from the north, people in the north cannot be killing themselves the way they are killing. People go and collect cow that is not meant for them. You know that if not by the power of God, next year there will be hunger in this country because people don't go to Gona again. Gona and me, they don't go to farm again because of fear of bandits, kidnappers. Let us bring ourselves together. Until we know that we are one, that no Yoruba man, Hausa man, no Igbo man in Nigeria, that all of us are one. That is when Nigeria will be good. And another thing, most of you there who are leaders of this country today, they went to school with free education. Even the president today, even when they are clamoring that he's not educated, even when they are saying he didn't go to school, people around him, even when they say he's only having school certs, secondary school certs, even those who are graduates, who are professors of different class, of different professional courses in university, they still running around him and saying he must be our president. There's no tribalism there. I heard somebody saying, our Minister for Information, Lai Mohammed, that he wants to thank Otimi Amechi, even in the era of COVID-19, he stood to say there must be rail. Please, for God's sake, elites are the people dividing this country. If you want to know that Nigeria is one, go to Taraba, go to Adamawa, Newman, go to far north, in Marwa, in Modibo, where the common people are buying market and selling. You know there's no problem. But when it comes to Nigeria, how can somebody go and keep 30 billion naira in his treasury and you say Nigeria will grow? The common thing that we need to do is when we come together and ravage the educational system. Our mom media is saying it, but we are just looking at it as childish. The education we are now having in Nigeria is not the proper education. It's only paper certificate. That is the problem we are having. When somebody said he has finished from the university and after university he could not put even a correct sentence, and you say that person will finally go to the labor market and become a nuisance. Nobody wants to employ somebody who cannot carry up his employment now. So I'm begging Nigerians, our leaders, the judiciary are talking of, they are the last hope of Nigeria, common man. And when you go there, they mess everything up. I'm sorry to say that. Even in the National Assembly, the chairman of the National Assembly today, who is the same president, and his vice, who is the speaker, are they telling us that they tell us this? But I don't want to go anywhere, I don't want to go any long, but the only thing they will do, power, like as I'm contributing to you now, many Nigerians do not have life to hear what I'm saying. There's power in information. Let's educate our people. Let's educate Nigerians. Our traditional institutions, our religious institutions. When someone will go and carry money that belongs to common, look at the pensioners. Somebody that I ever heard that in Ogun State, they are still paying pension at 3,000 naira. 3,000 naira that you cannot. Some of us here in Nigeria cannot use 3,000 naira to make our daily needs.
All right. Thank you so much for your contributions. Wankwo was calling in from Enugu, raised quite a number of issues as well. It's all part of the discussion we are holding tonight on the gains, the pains, the challenges, and the progress that Nigeria has made these past 61 years of being an independent country. We still have a couple of reports here. This one is coming from Enugu as well. Kelechi has this next report from our Enugu studios.
In diversity in all spheres of national life is necessary in order to attain a sustainable development in the country. Nigeria as a country is endowed with both human and natural resources. There is no doubt that the obvious need for unity and peace to attain nationhood is imperative. Basically, Nigeria is referred to as the giant of Africa as a result of its diversity among other criteria that make the country a great nation, regardless of different norms, values, and religious affiliation. Concerned citizens in Enugu opined that Nigeria as a nation can achieve much from diversity if the right mechanisms are adopted to blend various differences to yield positive outcome, thereby embracing one another with love and respect, not minding the tribe or religion. According to them, a consensus effort is necessary to promote unity in diversity.
If you go out in the streets there, every ethnic group in Nigeria is in Enugu. You find the Fulanis here, you find the Hausas here, you find the Yorubas here, you find the Dorman here, you have the Tips, you have the Robos, the Ibenis, the Shekiris. Everybody is here in Enugu. And they're all very happy and they're doing their businesses very peacefully.
I'm from Adamawa State. I do my business here in Enugu. Enugu here is where I was born. My late father married an Igbo woman from Ungo. So I can say that my state is Enugu State.
History has it that the past and present administration have introduced different policies to unite diverse groups through a shared sense of national identity. Aside Nigeria's national symbols, which bind the citizens together, government introduced the National Youth Service Corps, which permits intertribal socialization. It also set up unity schools for ethnic nationalities. This struggle to ensure a more perfect federation, stakeholders suggested, calls for a committed enterprise if national unity and watertight security is to be achieved.
As a matter of fact, even when we were kids, we would go together to the church for catechism, and then we move from there to where we are being taught the Quran, and we were being taught the ABC in Arabic. The cooperation was so fantastic.
To this end, it is pertinent for every Nigerian to unite and sustain the one indivisible nation, to champion the dream and aspiration of founding fathers that will foster national unity. In Enugu, Kelechi Ochiaga, NTA News.
All right, we still have one more report, and the next one is by Uyinaya Kaluoka here in Abuja.
The story of Nigerian railway system can best be described as that which begins with hope. Then came the dashing of hope with neglect and mismanagement, and now hope is gradually picking up as the railway system is being revived.
For more than 100 years, the British government completed Nigeria's first rail infrastructure from Ido in Lagos to Ota in Ogun State. Within this period, train service was active and the number of annual passengers road trip was about 11 million in 1963. Sadly, in the 70s, the service began to decline due to mismanagement and neglect, and the number of annual passenger trips dropped to 1 million in 2009. After several unsuccessful attempts by past administrations to revive the rail, the coming of this administration in 2015 rekindled hope.
I grew up with a railway and I'm happy to see it being resuscitated.
With determination and commitment to deliver effective rail system in the country, the first standard gauge railway from Abuja to Kaduna was inaugurated by President Muhammadu Buhari in 2016. The 187-kilometer rail line with 10 stations has continued to gain acceptance with daily increase of passengers.
You can buy your ticket at the comfort of your house.
The thing that we are seeing abroad, it is now here together with us in Nigeria.
In 2018, another modern rail line was added to the Abuja-Kaduna Rail, that is Abuja Light Rail, which connects the city center to the Idu train station and then Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport.
It is a clear indication that Nigerian government, in the person of our leader, Muhammadu Buhari, has put in his best. If this is what Buhari is giving us, we should rather try more to support him.
In 2020, it was great excitement for the people of Kogi, Delta and Edo states.
So the freight movement on the standard gauge is it that has come up. We are moving the pipes for the AKK project.
Another interesting achievement in the rail sector by the federal government is the Lagos-Ibadan double-track standard gauge railway project.
Anybody will feel proud, high and mighty, low and lowly, would want to come to a beautiful place like this. It's just like an international airport.
Work has commenced in 3 other huge projects across the country. The $1.9 billion Kano-Maradi rail project.
It is going to further link Nigeria and the rest of West Africa in the future.
Work is ongoing at the Port Harcourt to Maiduguri rail line for the $1.2 billion Kano to Kaduna standard gauge railway, expected to be completed in 18 months.
There is no way we won't employ a minimum of 20,000 workers on the Kano-Kaduna. Because why I say that, because I have seen the figure of approval for the payment of salaries for 1 year.
The issues of maintenance and continuity are being considered and given top priority by this administration, with the construction of the University of Transportation in Daura, Katsina State, and the wagon assembly plant in Kajola, Ogun State. Analysts maintain that the promised change in the transportation sector is making socio-economic impacts across the country.
All right. Progress, right? A sector that was abandoned but now being resuscitated. And so Nigerians can say, well, within this period, at least there is some work in reviving a sector like the railways.
Yes. Yes. In fact, the rail line is the most efficient and cheapest means of transporting heavy goods along very long distances. That's proven. And you could tell the impact on our roads and highways because we don't have the rails working. And the last investment in laying tracks, railway tracks, was in 1927. So you can see how many years we had to abandon that infrastructure and the repercussion. In fact, the fact that the rail broke down was one of the reasons why the country was divided, because many people were always moving around all parts of the country. But the moment those rails were discontinued, people now started coming to their share and beginning to feel that. So that rail is so key. It's very, very key in opening up our economy, and that will support industrialization. That will support the transportation of. In fact, the mineral, solid mineral, it requires rail to get into the solid mineral area to evacuate. You can't use road. Road cost, transportation cost has tripled because it's no longer 1 day to travel from the extreme north to the extreme south. Security has made it even 3-day journey. So the cost, and then you can't have all these talks of deep sea port, Lekki deep sea port, Badagry, Bonny, Ibaka. We can't talk about this without rail. How are you going to remove the goods? Because in the deep sea port, you have Panamax that has 17,000 containers compared to the small things we have that carry only 4,000 containers. So it's very, very strategic investment that will open the space.
All right, we have just a few more minutes to go on this program. So as we begin to wind down, let's go over to Ibadan. And once more, we'll talk to Senator Iyabo Anishilo. And this is a specific area now I want you to talk about. How well have Nigerian women been included in both governance and, of course, all the developmental processes of the country? How do we score Nigerian women?
Well, Nigerian women have gone so far into the system to help in building the system up. But I must say that we are not getting enough. We are not getting enough because when we think about the population and the federal character, which should have been applied into putting women in positions of power and authority, we have not enjoyed what we started fighting for. But we thank God because it was not like this at the beginning. we know that it's very difficult, especially where politics is at the front corner, and the use of money in politics. Women have not been so empowered to be able to have enough, to be able to struggle to position of authority. But well, we have been able to have men who believe, and we have actually seen that women too can do better. And so we have some support. We still need more support from the people, because if you train a woman, you will train a nation. If you train a man, you are just training an individual. And this is because God has placed it upon us to use our position, our natural endowments, to be able to build the homes and to build the nation. We have done well, not too well, but we have done well. And I pray that, and I hope that in the future, more women will be brought, especially those who are technicians, women who are technicians who could work in technical industries and who could actually be there to monitor and supervise projects for government. I pray that we should be more incorporated into the system. I mean, one thing I know, that if women, trained women, cultured women, have been brought into governance, things will be better. And in terms of achieving more, we should do better. So I pray that in the future we will bring better results for all the efforts the women are putting into governance, into the homes, and also into politics. So.
And it is on that note we'd like to thank you very much, Senator Yabo Anishlo, a former Minister of Education. We'd like to appreciate your being with us tonight on this program. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us on this program. We thank you once again. Thank you, and we wish you well.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, let's go back to Professor Kabir Mato in Kaduna. And Prof, someone talked about the resilience and the tenacity of Nigerians. And, some people are confounded. You get to the edge, the very edge, the precipice, and somehow the country pulls back. Right now, Nigeria is facing calls. People want to break away and so many other challenges. But you see, this is something that will pass eventually, and you see a stronger Nigeria emerging from all these troubles? Something that will pass eventually, and you see a stronger Nigeria emerging from all these troubles?
Yes, of course, Cyril. I told you that this is not the first time that Nigeria is experiencing this in its history. It did happen even during colonial period and after independence. What's happening today, I said, it's merely a product of politicking by, the selfish segments of the Nigerian political and sometimes economic elites, wanting to use the issue of succession and violence as a matter of negotiation for plump political offices. And I do believe that just like Professor there has been saying, and all of us, it's a consensus that the average Nigerian, that constitute more than 95 to 96% of the over 200 million people, desire to live in peace and harmony. The crisis with Nigeria lies with its selfish, and uncouched elites, both economic and political elites, that desire in their cutthroat competition for political power and access to state resources will continue to pitch one common man against the other. I agree with Mr. Wanko, who called from Enugu to say one of the greatest strategies that we have today, of course, and just like the minister in the Temple of Lord there in the studio was saying, the major issue that we're saying, we expect corruption from the political class, the executive and the legislature. The last hope of the common and uncommon man is the judiciary. And unfortunately, in Nigeria today, since the advent of civil rule, the judiciary has been performing below expectation. They have been, dragged into the murky waters of politics. President Obasanjo told us, and it's visible, we can see it, you can prove it, that justice is now for sale. It's sold to the highest bidder, especially on matters relating to politics. The judiciary must insulate itself from this. If the judiciary collapses, then the rest of the nation is unfortunately going. So I do believe that, these two shall pass. These two shall come to pass. It's one of the strategies that the Nigerian elites have used before and are using now, as a strategy of conquering political power. Nigeria will remain united despite the odds, despite the difficulties that we are facing.
One quick one before you go. I know we've always talked about this. You and I have talked about this before, but I still want to ask this. It's a quick one for you. Is it the system, or is it the way the system is done? You're a student of political systems. Is it the system, or is it the way it is practiced?
But I think it's more about the way it is practiced. Take the Constitution of Nigeria 1999 as amended. Every time you have a new set of legislatures, the ambition will be to amend the Constitution with the individual preferences and caprices of the members of the Senate and the House of Representatives. Now, a system, the Constitution as we have it has not been, operated minimally to see its efficacy or otherwise. But immediately we see any provision that does not favor us, that is not comfortable, we are not comfortable with, we want to ensure that it's amended so that our wills shall be, projected in the Constitution. So you can see very clearly so many things are wrong with the, Western liberal democratic contraption that we are practicing in Nigeria. But we have seen that this has been practiced, fairly very well in other climes, and if we also try to practice it in the best way possible, it's likely that we are going to achieve, the objectives of governance much more than, that it's been achieved. Trying to short-circuit the system, the elite class manipulating, everything that is, worth manipulating in order to secure benefits for selfish aggrandizement, I think contributes very immensely, in spoiling the, entire democratic exercise. So it's not necessarily about the system, it's more about the way and manner we are practicing the system. And if we will give it a trial, I do believe sincerely that we will get it minimally, at least. We will arrive at, the destination that we want to, arrive at. Otherwise, so the system itself, despite its weaknesses and lapses, is not totally, what is the problem? What is the problem is, the practitioners. Those are.
All right, so on that note, we'd like to thank you very much, Professor Kabiru Matu, who joined us from our Kaduna Network Center. We'd like to thank you. It's always a delight to have you join us on these discussions. Thank you once again, and we hope to see you again soon. And do stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Celine.
Right. Well, Prof, as we round off, there's still reason to believe in this country, and with all the issues, still something to celebrate at 61 years of independence. Quickly.
Yeah, we'll celebrate the hope that we will remain a strong and ever stronger united country. I have said it at the opening statement that 99.9%, at least 205 million people in this country want to live together. And they're all doing well. Go to Kaduna, go to Lagos, go to everywhere. They're all trading, they're all doing business together. And this is just those parochial interests that come, either during political arrangement or during, and then infest the system and breed all that commotion and trouble and insecurity on the people that otherwise want to live peacefully.
All right, thank you very much. And Dr. Kayode Ajulo, your closing comments.
Well, from what I've said today, it's so clear that one of the problem plaguing us is basically our political elite.
Right.
And it's expected, particularly when we raise the issue of judiciary. The essence is this: our judiciary, as long as it is, particularly in Nigeria, seem to be the best and to be trusted. The only time we see the hues and cries is when the political elites try to infiltrate the judiciary. And I think these are the things that we need to really understand very well.
All right. I'd like to thank you very much for coming on this program. And Prof, thank you too for coming on. Well, that's it. We must leave this conversation here tonight. And thank you all for being part of it. For those who called in, we thank you for sharing your thoughts. Thank you. Always keep coming back to NTA Tuesday Live. That's it for this program. Next week, we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover, and I say continue to stay safe.